You take a breath without thinking, in and out, thousands of times every day. But have you ever stopped to wonder what actually happens inside your body when you breathe? How does air turn into life? Because every single breath you take delivers something your body cannot survive without: oxygen. Oxygen fuels your brain, powers your muscles, and keeps your heart beating. Without it, everything begins to shut down within minutes. And yet this entire process happens silently, automatically, perfectly timed. Behind every breath is a complex system working non-stop. Your lungs, your blood, and your heart, all connected in a continuous cycle that keeps you alive every second. In this video, we will break down the entire journey of oxygen, from the moment it enters your body to the moment it reaches every cell. You will see how your lungs work, how oxygen enters your blood, how your heart distributes it, and what happens when this system fails. This is not just breathing. This is the system that sustains life itself. Every time you take a breath, you're doing something extraordinary. You're bringing life into your body. But breathing is not just about air going in and out. It's about what your lungs do with that air. Your lungs are two soft, spongy organs located inside your chest, protected by your rib cage, and connected to your airway system. At first glance, they may seem simple: expand, contract, repeat. But inside them is a highly organized system designed for one purpose: to exchange gases that keep you alive. When you inhale, air enters through your nose or mouth. It travels down a tube called the trachea, which then splits into two branches, one going to each lung. Inside the lungs, these branches divide again, and again, and again, forming a network of tiny airways called bronchi and bronchioles. These airways act like a tree, starting from one trunk and branching into thousands of smaller paths. And at the end of these tiny branches are millions of microscopic air sacs, called alveoli. You've just seen how air reaches your lungs, but breathing alone is not enough, because the oxygen in that air is still outside your bloodstream. So how does it actually enter your body? The answer lies in something incredibly small, yet incredibly powerful: the alveoli. Inside your lungs are millions of these microscopic air sacs, so tiny that thousands could fit in a single square millimeter. But together, they create a massive surface area, roughly the size of a tennis court. And this is where the most important exchange in your body happens. Each alveolus is surrounded by an intricate network of tiny blood vessels called capillaries. These capillaries carry blood that is low in oxygen and high in carbon dioxide. At the same time, the air inside the alveoli is rich in oxygen. So now you have two environments side by side: air full of oxygen and blood that needs it, separated by a wall so thin that it's almost invisible. This is where diffusion begins. Diffusion is a natural process where molecules move from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration. In simple terms, oxygen moves from where there is more of it to where there is less. So oxygen passes through the thin wall of the alveolus, crosses into the capillary, and enters the blood. Once inside, it binds to red blood cells, which act like tiny carriers designed to transport oxygen throughout your body. At the same time, another process is happening in reverse. Carbon dioxide, a waste gas produced by your cells, travels from the blood into the alveoli,
and from there, it is removed when you exhale. This exchange happens continuously with every breath you take, not once, not occasionally, but every second of your life. And it happens so efficiently that your body can adjust instantly, whether you are resting or running, sleeping.
You've seen how oxygen enters your lungs and how it moves into your blood. But there's one critical question left. How does that oxygen reach every cell in your body? Because your lungs don't deliver oxygen directly. They depend on another powerful organ, your heart. The heart and lungs work together as a single system, often called the cardiopulmonary system. One brings in oxygen, the other distributes it, and this partnership never stops. Here's how it works. After oxygen enters the blood in your lungs, it travels through tiny vessels into larger veins and is carried to the heart, specifically to the left side of the heart, the part responsible for pumping oxygen-rich blood to the entire body. With each heartbeat, this oxygenated blood is pushed into the arteries, and from there, it travels everywhere, to your brain, your muscles, your organs, reaching billions of cells that depend on oxygen to produce energy. But this is only half the journey. After delivering oxygen, the blood collects carbon dioxide, a waste gas produced by your cells. Now carrying less oxygen and more carbon dioxide, the blood returns to the right side of the heart. From here, the heart pumps it back to the lungs. And once again, carbon dioxide leaves the blood and oxygen enters. This creates a continuous loop. Lungs, blood. You've seen how your lungs bring in oxygen and how your heart delivers it to every part of your body. But what happens when this system begins to fail? When breathing is no longer efficient or stops working properly? It starts quietly. At first, your body receives slightly less oxygen than it needs. You may not even notice it immediately. But inside your bloodstream, the change has already begun. Oxygen levels start to fall. Red blood cells carry less oxygen, and your tissues begin to receive less energy. Your body reacts instantly. Your breathing becomes faster. Your heart beats harder, trying to compensate, trying to restore balance. But if the problem continues, the effects begin to spread. The brain, one of the most oxygen-dependent organs, is affected first. Even a small drop in oxygen can lead to confusion, dizziness, and loss of focus. As oxygen levels fall further, your muscles weaken, your coordination declines, and your body begins to struggle to perform even simple tasks. At the same time, your heart is under increasing stress. It tries to pump faster, harder. But without enough oxygen, even the heart cannot function properly. If this situation is not corrected, cells begin to fail, because without oxygen, they cannot produce the energy needed to survive. And when cells begin to die, organs start to shut down. The brain, the heart, the lungs themselves all become part of a failing system. This condition is known as hypoxia.
You've seen how your lungs work, how oxygen enters your blood, and how your heart delivers it throughout your body. You've also seen what happens when this system begins to fail. But now comes the most important question. What can damage your lungs, and how can you protect them? Because in the real world, breathing is not always effortless. Millions of people live with conditions that make every breath more difficult. Two of the most common are asthma and COPD. Asthma is a condition where the airways become inflamed and narrow. This makes it harder for air to pass through, especially during triggers like dust, pollution, exercise, or cold air. During an asthma attack, the airway walls swell, muscles tighten, and mucus builds up.
restricting airflow even further. This can lead to shortness of breath, wheezing, and a feeling of tightness in the chest. Now, compare this to COPD, a long-term condition that develops slowly over time, often linked to smoking or long-term exposure to harmful particles. In COPD, the lung tissue becomes damaged, airways lose their elasticity, and air gets trapped inside the lungs. This reduces the efficiency of gas exchange, meaning less oxygen enters the blood and more carbon dioxide remains inside. Unlike asthma, COPD damage is often permanent,